The warning. The night was quiet, but it did not feel safe. The air was heavy, and the sky above the ruined city was the color of rust. Strange lights moved in the distance, almost like stars, but too close to be real. The ground shook from time to time as if something deep below was still alive and breathing. He walked slowly through the broken streets, his boots crunching over shattered glass. His name was Daniel, a soldier who had seen many battles, but even he felt the weight of this place. It was not like any battlefield he had known. This was different. This was older. Daniel had been sent with a small group of explorers to recover something hidden in the city before it was destroyed in the war. The city had been abandoned for years, but people still whispered about it. They said strange experiments had been done here. They said the people who lived here had vanished without a sound. At the center of the city was an old tower. Most of its walls were gone, but one room still stood. Its doors were sealed with metal, and strange markings glowed faintly on the surface. The others in his group hesitated to go inside, but Daniel, fearless as always, pushed the door open. Inside, the air was warmer. It smelled faintly of smoke and something sweet, almost like burned sugar. At the center of the room was a table made of black stone. On it sat a single glass container glowing faint blue. Inside was a liquid that moved like it was alive. Daniel stepped closer, but before he could touch it, he heard a voice. "Do not drink," the voice said. He turned. In the shadow stood an old woman. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and her eyes shone like tiny mirrors. She was not dressed like anyone from his world. She looked ancient, as if she had been here for centuries, waiting. Daniel raised his weapon slightly. "Who are you?" The woman shook her head slowly. "Who I am does not matter. What matters is what you will choose." Daniel glanced at the container again. What is it?" The woman stepped closer. Her movements were slow, heavy as if every step cost her strength. She pointed a thin finger at the glowing liquid. "This is not made for humans. It is not food, it is not water. It is change. If you drink this, you will never be human again." Her voice echoed in the stone room. The words felt heavy, like a warning carried through time. Daniel narrowed his eyes. "Never human again? What do you mean?" The woman looked at him with sadness. "Long ago, your kind was tested. Some wanted more strength, more power. They believed this drink would give them what they lacked. They were right, but they did not understand the cost." Daniel lowered his weapon but kept his distance. "And the cost?" "They lost themselves. Their bodies changed. Their minds changed. They became something other." Her eyes shone brighter, and for a moment Daniel thought he saw her face flicker, as if she was wearing a mask. He felt a cold shiver run through him, but he covered it with a smile. "And you've been here all this time telling people not to drink?" "I tell them the truth. Most turn away, a few." She stopped, her voice trailing off. "A few do not listen." Daniel looked at the glowing liquid again. It pulsed almost as if it was calling to him. He could feel heat on his skin just standing near it. There was power in it. He had seen enough strange weapons and alien devices to know this was not ordinary. The woman's voice grew sharper. "Leave it, walk away. Do not touch what is not yours. If you drink, your life will no longer belong to you. You will not belong to anyone. Not even yourself." Daniel laughed softly. "You think I'm afraid of a drink? I've faced death more times than I can count. I've seen things worse than nightmares. If this liquid gives power, why shouldn't I take it?" The old woman's face twisted with fear. "Because courage is not the same as wisdom, and power is not the same as freedom. Once you drink, there is no turning back. You will see the world with new eyes, but the world will never see you as human again." Daniel leaned closer to the container. The liquid shimmered, almost like it knew he was watching. He felt something inside him whisper, a strange voice that was not his own. It told him to drink. It told him he was chosen. His hand hovered above the container. His heart beat faster, not from fear but from excitement. The old woman took a step closer, her voice desperate now. "If you drink this, you will never be human again." For a moment, silence filled the room. The glowing light cast sharp shadows on Daniel's face. His lips curved into a faint smile. Without hesitation, without fear, he lifted the container. The woman gasped. "No!" And then in one smooth motion, Daniel drank. The liquid burned like fire as it slid down his throat. His chest felt like it would explode. His vision blurred. The room spun. He dropped the container and it shattered on the floor, glowing fragments scattering like stars. Daniel fell to his knees, his body shaking. The woman's cry echoed in the stone chamber. Outside, the strange lights in the sky began to move faster, as if the city itself knew what had just happened. Daniel lifted his head. His eyes were no longer the same. They glowed faint blue, just like the drink. The warning had been given. But the choice was made, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first changes, the drink was fire in his blood. Daniel lay on the cold floor of the stone room, gasping for air. His chest rose and fell in sharp bursts. The old woman stood over him, her face pale, her hands trembling. She whispered again and again, "Fool, fool." For a long moment, Daniel thought he was dying. His heart pounded so loudly it drowned out every sound. His skin burned like it was lit from inside. But then, the fire eased. The shaking stopped. He pushed himself up slowly, wiping blood from his lips, and he laughed. "That's it? That's the great curse you warned me about?" His voice was rough but steady. "I've survived worse hangovers." The old woman's eyes narrowed. She said nothing, only watched. Daniel stood and rolled his shoulders. He felt light, too light, like his body was hollow. His arms felt stronger, though, and when he clenched his fists, the air around his knuckles seemed to hum. He turned to leave, but when he took a step, his foot cracked the stone floor beneath him. He froze. Slowly, he looked down. A deep crack spread out from where he had stepped. He lifted his boot and saw the print burned into the stone. His smile faded. "What?" he whispered. The old woman shook her head. "It begins." Daniel stumbled back toward the door, his pulse racing. His team was waiting outside, worried. "Daniel, what happened in there?" one of them shouted. He opened his mouth to answer, but his voice caught. When he finally spoke, it was deeper, sharper, almost metallic. "Nothing. I'm fine." They looked at him strangely. He could feel their eyes, their doubt. One soldier stepped closer. "Your eyes. They're glowing." Daniel frowned. "No, they're not." He pulled a small mirror from his belt and looked. The reflection almost made him drop it. His pupils were gone. His eyes shone a soft blue, bright even in the dark night. For the first time in years, Daniel felt fear claw at his chest. He clenched his jaw and shoved the mirror away. "It's nothing. Just the light." But the others were not convinced. As they walked back through the ruins, Daniel noticed more changes. The night no longer felt dark. He could see the cracks in the walls, the distant shadows moving far down the street. He could hear the faint scratching of rats in the rubble, the soft rustle of the wind half a mile away. Every sound was sharp, painful in its detail. At first he tried to ignore it, but then came the smell. He could smell the sweat of his team, the iron in their blood, the fear in their breath. It was overwhelming. He pressed a hand to his nose, trying to shut it out, but the sense clung to him, inescapable. His heart pounded again, harder than before. The world around him felt alive, too alive. His senses were drowning him. One of the soldiers grabbed his arm. "Daniel, what's wrong?" "You don't look—" The man never finished his sentence. Daniel's grip tightened without meaning to. There was a sickening crack, and the soldier cried out, falling to his knees. Daniel pulled his hand back quickly, horrified. I didn't mean to," he stammered. His glowing eyes darted between the soldier's twisted arm and the others' frightened faces. The team stepped back, weapons half raised. "What did you do?" one demanded. Daniel's voice shook. "I don't know. I can't control it." From the shadows, the old woman's voice drifted like smoke. "I told you. The change cannot be stopped. You are no longer what you were." Daniel spun, searching for her, but she was gone. Only her echo remained. His hands trembled as he stared at them. His skin was darker now, faint blue lines glowing under the surface, tracing his veins like rivers of light. He pressed his palms together, trying to hide them, but the glow shone through. The others kept their distance, whispering among themselves. He caught fragments of their words. Monster. Cursed. Not human. Daniel's jaw tightened. "I'm still me," he growled. But the words rang hollow. That night, when the team made camp, Daniel sat alone. His body felt strange, restless, filled with energy he could not contain. He tried to sleep, but every sound woke him. The crackling fire, the breathing of the others, the shifting stones beneath the earth. His skin itched, his muscles ached, and his eyes glowed faintly in the dark. At one point, he stood and walked away from camp. His legs carried him faster than he intended. He realized he was running faster than he had ever run, and he was not even tired. He leaped over a broken wall and landed 20 feet away with ease. He froze. His breath clouded in the air. He looked down at his hands, glowing brighter now. For a long moment, the thrill of power surged through him. He could run faster, jump higher, hear further, smell everything. He was more than human. But then the hunger came. It started as a small ache in his chest, then grew into a sharp need, like thirst. He wanted something, he didn't know what. Water didn't help. Food didn't help. His mouth watered at the scent of blood from his injured teammate. Daniel staggered back, horrified. "No," he whispered to himself, "not me. I'm not a monster." But deep inside, another voice answered, a voice not his own. "You are changing. You cannot stop it. Embrace it." Daniel fell to his knees, clutching his head, fighting the whispers in his mind. The others rushed toward him, but stopped short when his glowing eyes snapped open. He was breathing hard, his body trembling with power he did not ask for. His shadow stretched long in the firelight, twisted, no longer human. The first changes had begun, and it was only the beginning. The power and the fear Daniel no longer walked like the others. His steps were too fast, too sharp. His eyes scanned the dark ruins with a strange calm, but inside he was not calm at all. He felt the world pressing against him. Every sound, every smell, every flicker of movement. The city was no longer dead to him. It was alive, breathing in his ears, whispering through his veins. His team followed at a distance. They did not speak much now. They only glanced at him when they thought he was not looking. Their fear was heavy in the air, and Daniel could smell it, almost taste it. When the group stopped to rest near a broken wall, Daniel sat apart. He pressed his hands against the stone and felt it vibrate, as if the earth itself was moving. His glowing veins lit faintly in the night, and the whispers in his mind returned. "You are not weak anymore. You are more. You are chosen." He shut his eyes tightly. "I am still me," he muttered under his breath. But the words did not quiet the voice. One soldier, a young man named Harris, walked up cautiously. His rifle hung loose, but his body was tense. "Daniel," Harris said softly, "you need to tell us the truth. What's happening to you?" Daniel looked at him, and Harris stepped back at once. The blue glow in Daniel's eyes was brighter now, almost burning. "I don't know," Daniel admitted, "but I can control it." Harris shook his head. "That's not what it looks like." He pointed at the cracks in the stone where Daniel's hands had been. Daniel pulled his hands away quickly. The stone beneath was split, tiny fragments crumbling. His fingers trembled. He hadn't even realized he was doing it, "See?" Harris whispered. "You're not the same." Daniel stood taller than before, his shadow stretching across the ruined wall. His voice was firm.
"I am still Daniel."
"Don't forget who led you here. Don't forget who kept you alive." But as he spoke, the strange hunger returned. His mouth was dry. His muscles burned. His body wanted something he could not name. He clenched his fists, forcing himself not to move closer to Harris, not to breathe in the sharp scent of blood still lingering from the broken arm he had caused. He turned away and stalked into the ruins alone. The city felt different to him now. He could hear the hum of power lines that had not worked in years. He could feel the vibration of old machines buried beneath the rubble. As he walked, his footsteps grew lighter until he realized he was not walking anymore. He was gliding, almost floating over the ground. He stopped in shock. Then he tried it again, focusing on the strength in his legs. With a single leap, he soared to the top of a ruined building. He landed hard, the roof cracking under his weight, but he did not stumble. His balance was perfect. His body was perfect. For a moment, he felt joy. He spread his arms and shouted into the night, his voice echoing over the dead city. "I am not afraid. Do you hear me? I am not afraid." The sound shook the air like thunder. Windows shattered in nearby ruins. Daniel stared at his own hands, trembling not with fear but with awe. "This is power," the voice in his mind whispered. "This is what you were meant to be." But then another sound came, screams. His team shouting in panic. Gunfire rattled through the streets. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Without thought, his body moved. He leapt from the building, crashing into the ground below, landing on his feet like a predator. He sprinted faster than he ever had before, the world blurring around him. In seconds, he reached the others. A pack of creatures had surrounded them. Pale, twisted shapes with long arms and empty faces. Their skin crawled with veins that glowed the same blue light as Daniel's. The soldiers fired, but the bullets only slowed the creatures. One lunged at Harris, its claws reaching. Daniel roared and moved. He struck the creature with a single punch, and its body flew across the street, slamming into a wall so hard it cracked. Silence fell for a moment as both soldiers and monsters stared at him. Then the fight began. Daniel moved faster than bullets. His fists tore through the pale shapes, breaking bone and shattering stone. He felt no pain, only strength. His body was a weapon, and the creatures fell before him one by one. When it was over, the street was quiet again. The soldiers stared at Daniel with wide, terrified eyes. You're like them," one whispered, pointing at the broken bodies of the creatures. Daniel looked down. The pale monsters bled blue light, the same glow that ran through his veins. His stomach twisted. "No," he whispered, "I'm not like them." But the fear in his team's eyes told him they no longer believed him. That night, Daniel sat apart again, his hands shaking. He could still feel the creatures' bones breaking under his fists. He could still hear their screams. And part of him, a dark, hungry part, had enjoyed it. He closed his eyes and pressed his forehead against his knees. "I am Daniel. I am human. I am not a monster." But the whispers in his head only laughed. Power has a price. You cannot run from it. You cannot hide. Soon you will understand. Daniel lifted his head, his glowing eyes burning in the dark. Fear filled his chest for the first time. Not fear of death, not fear of the monsters, but fear of himself. Because deep down, he was no longer sure if he was still Daniel at all. The truth about the drink: the city was silent after the battle, but Daniel could not find peace. His hands were still stained with the blue glow of the creatures he had destroyed. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw their faces. Blank, empty, yet strangely familiar. The soldiers avoided him now. They whispered at the edge of the fire, their voices low, their eyes darting toward him like he was the enemy. He heard every word, of course. His new senses made it impossible to ignore. He's not one of us anymore. What if he turns on us next? We should leave him behind. Daniel clenched his fists. He wanted to shout at them, to remind them who he was. But the truth was already burning inside him. He was changing, and there was no stopping it. That night, when the others slept, Daniel left camp and wandered deeper into the ruins. The city pulled at him, calling him forward. His glowing veins hummed as if the streets themselves carried power. At the heart of the ruins stood a massive archway of stone. Strange markings glowed across it, the same faint blue as his own body. Daniel stepped closer, and the symbols flared brighter. The ground rumbled. "You were not meant to come here yet," a voice said behind him. Daniel spun. The old woman was there again, her eyes glimmering in the dark. "You," Daniel growled. "You knew this would happen. You knew what was in that drink." She bowed her head. "I warned you. But you chose." Daniel stepped toward her, anger rising. "What is happening to me? Tell me the truth." The woman studied him for a long time. Finally, she sighed. "Long ago, this city was not human at all. It belonged to another race. A race that was strong, brilliant, and proud. They created the drink you swallowed. It was meant to transform, to take a human body and rewrite it, make it something more." Daniel frowned. Why would they make such a thing?" The woman's voice grew heavy. "Because they were dying. Their kind could not survive. So they sought to seed their essence into others, to live on not as themselves but as something new. They chose humans. They believed you were strong enough to carry the change." Daniel's chest tightened. "Those creatures we fought, they were," "Yes," she whispered. "Failed ones. Humans who drank but could not hold the power. Their bodies twisted. Their minds broke. What you fought tonight were remnants of those who came before." Daniel felt the ground tilt beneath him. His stomach turned. He looked down at his glowing veins. "And me? Which am I? A success? Or a failure?" The woman's mirrored eyes reflected his fear. "That depends on what you choose now." He stepped back, shaking his head. "No, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want to be part of their plan," her voice sharpened. "Yet you drank. You embraced it without fear. That is why it chose you." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Don't call it a choice. It tricked me. It called to me. It wasn't my decision." The woman tilted her head. "Isn't that what temptation always is? A voice calling, a promise made. Few resist. You did not." Daniel's rage flared, but he forced it down. He turned away, staring at the glowing archway. "What is this place?" The woman followed his gaze. "The heart of their work. The drink was made here. That arch is a doorway, not of stone but of memory. It stores their knowledge. It waits for one who can open it. Daniel touched the arch. The markings pulsed brighter under his hand. The stone hummed, and in an instant images flooded his mind. He saw tall, luminous beings standing in a chamber of light. Their bodies glowed like stars. They mixed the liquid, poured it into containers, and offered it to trembling humans. Some humans grew stronger, their eyes burning with blue fire. Others screamed as their flesh twisted. He saw battles, cities falling, fires spreading across worlds. He saw these beings fading, their voices desperate. "We will live on. We will become you." Daniel staggered back, clutching his head. The visions vanished, but their weight remained. "They wanted immortality," he whispered. "They wanted to steal it from us," the old woman nodded. "And now their blood runs in your veins. Their voice speaks in your mind. You are not only Daniel anymore. You are the bridge between what was and what will be." Daniel's breath came hard and fast. His fist shook. "I didn't ask to be their bridge. I don't want their power." The woman's voice softened. "Then fight it. Prove you are still human. But know this, if you deny it, the hunger will grow. The voice will press harder. And if you lose, you will become like those monsters you killed." Daniel stared at her, fury and fear clashing in his eyes. "Then tell me how to stop it. Tell me how to stay me." The woman's lips curved into something like a smile, though it was heavy with sorrow. "There is no cure, only a path. Walk it with strength, and maybe you will remain Daniel. Fail, and you will belong to them." The ground shook harder now. The archway pulsed like a beating heart. Daniel turned away from it, but he could still feel the pull, deep and strong, dragging at his soul. Behind him, the woman's voice echoed one last time. "The truth is simple. You drank their gift. You carry their curse. Whether you call it power or poison, the end will be the same. You can never go back." Daniel clenched his fists, his glowing eyes burning in the night. For the first time, he realized the real war was not against monsters outside. The real war was inside him, and it had only just begun. Betrayal and conflict. The campfire burned low, throwing weak light across broken stones. The soldiers sat together in a tight circle, their rifles resting near their knees. Their voices were hushed, but Daniel heard every word. His new senses made whispers sound like shouts. "He's not human anymore," one muttered. "You saw what he did to those things. He fights like them. He'll turn on us. We can't take that chance." Daniel sat apart, staring into the darkness. The firelight made the glow in his veins even clearer. His skin looked less like skin now, more like glass holding light inside. He wanted to speak, to tell them he was still himself. But each time he tried, the words caught in his throat. He no longer believed them. At last, Harris stood. He was the only one who still looked Daniel in the eye. He walked over slowly, his steps heavy with fear. "Daniel," Harris said, "they don't trust you anymore. I'm not sure I do either. But you saved us. That has to count for something." Daniel gave a bitter laugh. "Saved you? Or just killed what I'm becoming?" Harris flinched at the words. Daniel turned away, his eyes burning in the dark. The next morning, the team moved on. The ruins stretched around them like a graveyard. Daniel walked at the front, though no one had asked him to. His senses were sharper than any map, guiding him through the dead city. But behind him, the whispers never stopped. He smelled their fear, stronger than gunpowder. It clung to them like sweat. By midday, they reached a collapsed bridge. The path forward was blocked by rubble. Daniel stepped forward, gripping the heavy stones. With a single heave, he lifted a slab that would have taken 5 men to move. The soldiers froze, staring at him in silence. He dropped the stone aside and cleared the path. "There, let's go," but none of them moved. One soldier, a woman named Vega, raised her rifle. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "No, we're not following you anymore." Daniel turned, his glowing eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" Vega's finger tightened on the trigger. "You're not Daniel. You're something else. You should never have walked out of that tower." The others shifted, their weapons half raised. Harris stood in between, his voice desperate. "Wait, he's still one of us." Vega's eyes burned with fear. "Look at him. Look at his veins. He's becoming one of those things. If we wait, we'll all die." Daniel felt anger rise, hot and wild. The voice inside him whispered, "Strike her down. Prove your power. Show them who leads." He clenched his fists, fighting the urge. "I am still me," he growled. "But if you point that weapon at me again, you'll regret it." The standoff lasted a long moment. Then Harris stepped forward. lowering Vega's rifle with his hand. Enough, he saved us once. We owe him that much. If he changes, I'll deal with it myself. Daniel's eyes flickered at Harris, surprised. He said nothing, only turned and led them across the bridge. But betrayal was already planted in their hearts. That night, Daniel woke to the click of a safety being released. His eyes snapped open. 3 soldiers stood around him, rifles aimed. Vega led them, her face pale but determined. "Don't move," she whispered. "You're too dangerous." Daniel slowly sat up, his glowing eyes cutting through the dark. "So this is it? You think you can kill me in my sleep?" "It's not killing," Vega said. "It's survival. You saw those monsters. You're becoming one of them. We can't let it happen." Harris appeared from the shadows, his pistol drawn but aimed at the soldiers, not Daniel. "Stop this madness. If you shoot him, you'll doom us all." "We need him!" Vega's jaw tightened. "We need to live, and he's the reason we won't." Daniel stood, towering over them. His veins glowed brighter, his voice deep like thunder. "You're afraid of me. I understand. But remember this, when if I wanted you dead, you would already be lying in the dirt." The soldiers shifted, fear dripping from them. The glow in Daniel's eyes grew sharper. The hunger inside him clawed at his mind, begging to be unleashed. For one terrible second, he wanted to give in, to show them the power that lived in his blood. But Harris stepped closer, his voice steady. "Daniel, stop. Don't prove them right." The words struck him harder than bullets. Daniel's fists loosened. The light in his veins dimmed. He turned his back on them all. "Point your weapons somewhere else," he muttered. "I'm not your enemy. But if you make me one, you won't survive it." The silence that followed was heavier than any battle. Finally, Vega lowered her rifle. The others followed, their hands shaking. Later, when the fire was burning low, Harris sat beside Daniel. "You know they won't forgive you," Harris said quietly. Daniel stared at the flames, his face cold. "I don't need their forgiveness. I just need control," Harris frowned. "And if you can't control it?" Daniel's eyes glowed faintly as he looked at the younger man. "Then I'll make sure I'm the only one who pays the price." But deep inside, Daniel knew it was not that simple. The voice in his head laughed at the promise. The hunger in his blood pulsed stronger each night. The real question was no longer if he could control it. The question was how long before the others would try to kill him again, and succeed. The final transformation. The city grew darker as they moved deeper into its heart. The ruins seemed alive now, humming with the same strange energy that burned in Daniel's blood. Each step he took made the air tremble, like the ground recognized him. His body was no longer what it had been. His skin, once tanned and scarred from years of battle, now gleamed faintly in the dark. The glowing veins had spread across his arms, his neck, even his face. His reflection in broken glass barely looked human. The soldiers kept their distance. They spoke in low voices, their fear louder than any shout. Daniel didn't need to hear their words to know what they were thinking. To them, he was no longer Daniel. He was something else. Only Harris stayed close, his loyalty holding firm despite his fear. "You're still you," Harris said one night by the fire. "You saved us again and again. That has to mean something." Daniel looked into the flames, his eyes glowing brighter than the embers. "If I'm still me, then why do I feel like I'm slipping away?" Harris had no answer. The changes grew faster. At night, Daniel's senses sharpened until sleep was impossible. He could hear the soldiers' hearts beating in their chests, could smell the faint iron of blood, could see every crack in the stones even in complete darkness. And then came the strength. One evening, a collapsed tower blocked their path. It would have taken hours for the group to clear it. Daniel stepped forward, gripped the rubble, and with one violent push, hurled it aside like it was paper. The soldiers recoiled, staring in silence. Daniel's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. For a moment, he felt proud of the strength, proud of the power. But then the hunger came back, sharp, painful, endless. He pressed his hands against his stomach. It wasn't food he craved. It wasn't water. It was something deeper, something darker. Blood, the voice in his mind whispered. Life, energy, take it. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut, shaking his head. "No, I won't." But the voice laughed. That night, the dream came. He stood in a chamber of light, surrounded by the glowing beings he had seen in the visions. They circled him, their voices echoing inside his skull. "You are almost complete," they said. The shell of man is breaking. Soon you will rise as what we once were, Daniel shouted at them. I am not yours. I will never be yours. But they only raised their hands, their faces calm. You are ours already. You drank. You accepted. Your body is ours. Your mind will follow. Daniel woke drenched in sweat, his veins burning like fire. His chest felt ready to split open. He staggered away from the camp, clutching at his skin, his breath ragged. Not me, he gasped. I won't be your weapon. I won't. His scream echoed through the ruins, shaking dust from the walls. The next day, the final shift began. Daniel felt it as soon as the sun rose. His muscles pulsed with strength too great to contain. His bones ached, reshaping themselves. His skin hardened, glowing brighter, almost translucent. The soldiers froze when they saw him. One whispered, "He's not human anymore." Daniel met their eyes, his voice deeper, vibrating with power. I'm still Daniel, but his face no longer convinced them. His jaw was sharper, his eyes twin flames of blue, his body taller, broader. Even his shadow looked alien. Vega raised her rifle again. No, you're one of them. Daniel's anger flared, his veins blazing. The voice inside roared. Yes, show them. Crush them. And this lie of humanity. Daniel trembled, torn in two. He wanted to fight it, but the hunger, the power, the call of the ancient race was stronger than ever. Harris stepped between them, desperate. Stop, look at him, he's fighting it. He hasn't given in yet. Daniel dropped to his knees, clutching his head. His voice came out broken. I can't hold it much longer. Then the ground shook. From the ruins, more of the pale creatures emerged, dozens, their glowing veins matching Daniel's. They hissed and crawled forward, eyes locked on him. The soldiers raised their weapons in panic. Harris shouted, "They're here for him!" Daniel stood slowly. The creatures froze, bowing their heads as if they recognized him. The soldiers gasped in horror. They think he's their leader, Vega whispered. Daniel's chest heaved. For a moment, the hunger inside him rejoiced. He felt their obedience, their loyalty. If he wanted, he could command them. He could rule them. He could become the monster the woman had warned him of. The voice inside purred, "This is your destiny. Accept it. Become more than human. Become us." Daniel clenched his fists, his glowing eyes blazing. He turned to Harris, his voice trembling. "If I fight them, I might lose myself. If I lead them, I'm no longer human. Either way, I'm finished." Harris gripped his arm tightly. "Then make the choice that's still yours. Don't let them take that from you." Daniel stared at the creatures. His body shook with power, his veins burning brighter than ever. The soldiers aimed their weapons at him, ready to fire if he turned. The moment had come. He was no longer just Daniel, no longer just human. This was his final transformation, and whatever he chose next would decide not only his fate, but theirs as well. The ending, the ruins shook under the weight of silence. Dozens of pale creatures knelt before Daniel, their glowing veins pulsing in rhythm with his own. The soldiers stood frozen behind him, rifles trembling in their hands. Harris's voice cut through the heavy air. "Daniel, it's your choice. Lead them or fight them, but choose now." Daniel's body burned like fire and ice. His veins glowed so bright they lit the stones beneath his feet. His skin was splitting at the edges, cracks of blue light showing underneath. The transformation was reaching its peak. The creatures hissed softly, waiting. They did not see him as an enemy. They saw him as their master. The voice inside him was stronger than ever, pressing into his skull like a knife. "Accept us, rule them, become the new order. Humanity is weak." "You are not." Daniel's fists clenched. "I am human," he growled, though the words tasted false in his mouth. Vega raised her weapon, her eyes wild. "He's lying. Look at him, he's one of them now." "Hold your fire," Harris shouted, stepping in front of her rifle. His voice cracked with desperation. "Give him a chance." Daniel closed his eyes, struggling to breathe. Images flooded his mind. The glowing beings who had created the drink, the monsters twisted by its power, the soldiers who once trusted him, and the woman's warning, "If you drink this, you will never be human again." The words echoed, burning through his skull. He had ignored them. He had thought himself fearless, and now here he was, standing on the knife's edge between man and monster. When his eyes opened again, they blazed brighter than ever. The creatures stirred, ready to move at his command. Daniel raised his hand. For a heartbeat, the soldiers thought he was about to unleash hell. Their fingers tightened on their triggers, but instead of pointing at them, Daniel turned his hand toward the pale creatures. His voice roared like thunder. I am not your leader. I am not your kind. The creatures shrieked in pain as if the rejection itself burned them. They lunged forward, their loyalty twisting into rage. The battle began. Daniel threw himself at them with power that shook the earth. His fists shattered bone, his roar split the night. Blue light sprayed across the ruins as he tore through them one by one. The soldiers fired from behind, bullets ripping into the horde, but it was Daniel who broke their ranks. Every strike drained him. Every roar carried the weight of his soul. The hunger screamed in his blood, begging him to stop resisting, to embrace the beast. But he fought harder, forcing himself to stand against the very creatures that saw him as their kin. Harris shouted over the chaos, "He's fighting for us! Cover him!" Vega's rifle spat fire, her doubts forgotten in the storm. The ground cracked under Daniel's feet as he smashed through the last of the creatures. Their bodies fell silent, glowing veins fading into ash. When the battle ended, Daniel stood alone in the rubble, chest heaving, glowing eyes dimming. The soldiers lowered their weapons slowly. Harris stepped forward, hope flickering in his eyes. You did it. You chose us, but Daniel shook his head. His body trembled, his skin splitting with more blue light. No, I chose to fight them. But I didn't win against what's inside me. The others looked at him in silence. His shadow was no longer human, stretching long and alien across the broken stones. Vega whispered, "So what are you now?" Daniel's eyes burned faintly as he looked at her. His voice was low, almost broken. "I don't know." He turned away, staring at the horizon. The city pulsed faintly around him, alive with the energy of the beings who had made the drink. He felt it calling to him still, stronger than ever. "If I stay," Daniel said, "I'll lose myself. And when that happens, none of you will be safe." Harris stepped forward quickly. "We can help you. We'll find a way to—" "No," Daniel interrupted, his voice sharp but calm. "There is no cure. She told me the truth. I can't go back. The only choice I have left is to go forward." The soldiers stared as Daniel stepped away from the firelight. His veins glowed brighter, casting strange patterns across the ruins. He looked more like a phantom than a man. Harris's voice cracked as he called after him. "Daniel, wait! Where will you go?" Daniel paused, his glowing eyes shining in the dark. "Somewhere you won't have to follow," he said. "Because if you see me again, I won't be Daniel anymore." And with that, he leapt into the shadows, vanishing into the ruined city with inhuman speed. The soldiers stood in silence, staring at the empty streets. Harris lowered his weapon, his face pale with sorrow. Vega shook her head, whispering, "He's gone." Whatever he was. "He's gone." But Harris whispered back almost to himself, "No, he's still fighting. As long as he fights, he's still Daniel." The fire burned low. The ruins were quiet again. But far in the distance, a roar split the night. Not human, not creature, something caught in between. The soldiers shivered. None of them knew if the sound belonged to a hero, a monster, or something far worse, and as the echo faded, one truth remained clear. Daniel had drunk without fear, and the world would never be the same again.